welcome back to Light and Hunch episode 6, I believe. Do not worry, our guest is here and he did not cancel last minute. But before we introduce him, I am your host, co-host actually, the man that never misses, Light Out Sports, and my co-host, the CEO of GOATs, ZZ Huncho. ZZ, a lot of stuff happening this week. The Lakers and the Knicks lost. So we really can't say anything, but I know our guest
without the S. Yeah.
Yep. I know our guest is gonna, talk about his Dallas Mavericks because they definitely beat the Clippers. But everybody's wondering who's the guest is, and I'm pretty sure you already should know who's the guest is. And it's the man, the myth, the legend. They call me Crafty. What's up, Crafty? How you doing?
What's going on? I'm great. How are you guys doing today?
We are doing good. Look, the playoffs started. I predicted a lot of stuff to happen.
You did.
Everything has been going south for me. But let's start talking about the best performances so far, and I want to talk about the Dallas Mavericks.
You already know I was.
Yeah, let's talk about Dallas. Luka Doncic is officially the Clippers' father, man.
Dude,
what do you have to say about Luka, Crafty? All
right, so when you sent me the topics, I didn't know if we were talking about teams or players, and then I literally, just just for the sake of getting called biased, I put biased pick and not biased pick. But dude, biased pick Luka Doncic. First off, beginning of the year against the Clippers, blows them out by 50 like it's his job.
Yep.
Okay. And then here in the playoffs, last year we played against the Clippers. We got beaten 6. I thought we were going to beat them in 7, but with Kristaps being out, per usual, it didn't really work out that way for us. But I do want to point out that Luka's played 7 playoff games, every single one of them against the Clippers. Yep. And yet this man is averaging this is a third-year player, by the way, 31, 10, and 9 against 2 of the best wing defenders in the league. One of them, arguably one of the best wing defenders in NBA history.
Yep.
And this is what he's doing to them. I want to know what happens if he goes against a player who can't play defense.
I want to know who are the people that still say that Luka's not a top 10 player in the NBA. That is
people I'm not fans of.
Yeah, that's like Luka Doncic is showing why he's the real deal. I mean, this man had the most quiet triple-double against the Clippers. This man literally it's his assignment to embarrass them. And so, I mean, if Luka pulls this off and eliminates the Clippers, first of all, I'm gonna enjoy it a lot because I'm a Lakers fan. And,
right.
Yeah. But the Clippers talk so much. But Z, what you gotta say about Luka Doncic? Oh, I think Z.
Nice. Dude,
all right, cool. Here, Z, if you can hear us.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Go through your phone.
Phone?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
So while we're waiting on it, have you seen the meme of it shows the Clippers being all depressed, and it says when you dodge the Lakers just get beat by a 22-year-old?
Bro, Luka, look, I don't care what people say anymore. Luka Doncic is a top 5 player for me.
Oh, I don't know about top 5. I will give him top 10, but I won't say top 5 yet.
5. He is top 5. First of all, I think I'm also biased with Luka Doncic because he's my second favorite player. I mean, you look at LeBron James and you look at Luka, they play a similar type of game. It's ridiculous.
And one of them's just awkward.
One just looks awkward playing, but he gets the job done. I mean, he gets the job done.
I think his awkwardness works in his advantage because it throws teams off.
It does. So, Z, what you got to say about Luka?
I love Luka. Luka Magic. I've always been.
No. Time out. What the heck do you have in your hand?
Yeah, I was curious what we talk about in that.
No. What the heck do you have in your hand, Z?
Oh, he's frozen again.
He's frozen? Wait, hold up. Let him. I saw number 30 Curry jersey.
That's what I saw.
That's what I saw. Hopefully, we don't allow teams that are not in the playoffs in the show. Come on.
It's a playoff debate.
Here, let me turn off the camera. Let him join. All right, this is me and you, Crafty. Anyways, but Luka Doncic. I mean, it's ridiculous what this man could do at such a young age. He's a year older than me. Have you ever thought about that? This man, I don't know how old you are, Crafty, but
19.
You're 19, but think about he's 22. He is making millions of dollars. He is showing people why he is that good. Here, what's up, Z? How you doing?
I hope I'm good. I hope.
No, you're good. You're good, bro. But what was in your hand?
Oh, I noticed y'all were wearing jerseys, and then I was like, damn, I got to get one of my jerseys. And the first one I saw was the Curry one, so I'm just going to throw it on.
Oh, man. All right, I'm just going to put it on the camera.
You can't wear that in front of him, man.
Hey, it's fine. It's fine. I'm
allergic.
Rest rigged it. It's okay.
So, yo, Z, what you got to say about Luka?
I love Luka. I love Luka Magic. I think that Luka to me hasn't really disappointed a lot in the playoffs. And he's only been in there. How many? This is his second year in the playoffs.
Seventh game, yeah. It's all been against the
so
Clippers.
I think back to that shot in the bubble last year, the game winner.
Nasty.
And then I think about the Clippers game. With that one, when I was watching it, I was like, man, are the Mavericks really going to pull this off? Now, we saw like 25% of Pandemic P. The other 75%, he did okay. But we've seen better, and we've clearly seen worse. So the Clippers, now, I don't think the Mavericks are going to take the serious from the Clippers. I don't think Kawhi Leonard is going to allow himself specifically to have as bad of a game as he did in Game 7 of last year's semifinals against the Nuggets, where he shot just as bad as Julius Randle did last night for my Knicks. But I don't think he's going to let that happen. So I think Luka's still going to do his thing, but I think his team is going to fail him in the end. Somebody just brought up Glass, Kristaps Porzingis, and
I pray he doesn't get injured. Really, man.
Me too. Knock on wood.
What would happen in your opinion? This is to Z. What would happen in your opinion if Kawhi loses in the first round after, his contract is coming up? I mean, I think he has a player option this year, so he could either stay one more year with the Clippers and hopefully they could figure something out, or do you think that's it? He is leaving, maybe join some other team. What do you think is going to happen?
If Kawhi Leonard leaves the Clippers, it's not going to be because the only reason that he would leave would be because of Paul George. If I'm Kawhi Leonard, right? LeBron James wanted you to come to LA. Same as Paul George. LeBron and the Lakers dodged a bullet with Paul George. But they wanted you to come to LA. You decided you're going to go to the JV squad. But if you're Kawhi Leonard in 2019, you just won a championship. Granted, you beat an injured Warriors team, but you won a championship for a country. So now you're feeling like you're hot stuff. And then you go to the Clippers and you recruit Paul George. Everybody was confused about that one. But you recruited Paul George and got him to come. Paul George failed you last year. He failed you 100%. Just about every game. So if he does it again this year, I wouldn't be surprised if Kawhi Leonard joined the Knicks, the Warriors, hell, the Nets. He needs to get away from Paul George if that happens.
I mean, to be fair with Kawhi, we know he's not like super loyal. Oh, I'm going to stay with this team my entire life. I mean, we saw him play the Spurs, absolutely play the Spurs, win a championship, and leave the next year. If he feels like his situation's bad, he's out. And the thing with the Clippers is that team is way better than the Toronto Raptors team that he had. But he has the what's the word for the liability of what looks like Paul George in the playoffs. I really don't think Paul George is that bad of a playoff player. I think last year, because COVID and everything, that could affect anybody. We saw it affect so many players in good and bad ways. I mean, TJ Warren.
And the thing with Paul George is that he is one of, for me, he's one of the most entertaining players to watch. Like when you look at his game, he's very skilled, very great handle. He could shoot the basketball, but I think he's just allergic to the playoffs. I mean,
almost, man.
It's like I'm not. And like Z said about Paul George, he didn't have a bad game. It wasn't like a horrible playoff P bad game. It was more of I started bad, but I picked it up in the second half. But you cannot have that with the Dallas Mavericks, especially when Luka Doncic is already tested against the Clippers to do whatever he wants with them. It's whatever Luka wants to do, that's what's gonna happen. So if the Clippers want to win, if the Clippers want Kawhi to stay, they gotta. And I've been saying this all year round. Kawhi Leonard will leave the Clippers if they do not make the NBA Finals. And I've been saying this. So
and they won't.
And if they lose in the first round, you trust me, he's either gonna wear that ugly jersey that Z's wearing, all right, or he's gonna go to the Miami Heat. And I'm calling it right now, or the Knicks. But we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
Wait, so Z, are you a Knicks fan?
Yeah.
Yep.
I wanted to bring this up. How we feeling about Alec Burks, dude? If Julius Randle didn't do what he did and Alex Burks still stepped up the way he did, that game would have been over for the Hawks.
Exactly. This is the thing. The biggest thing that irritated me with that game was one, and I've said this before, Derrick Rose is my favorite player of all time. I'm very confident. I'm about as confident as you are with Luka and you are with LeBron when he chooses not to flop. But I'm just saying with D Rose, like at the end of the game, one, Julius Randle irritated me last night because he shot 6 for 24 or something like that. It was terrible. It was pretty bad. So what he does, I figured this out with Julius Randle. He has a bad game. He's one of those players that has a bad game and just says F defense too. If I can't get a bucket, screw defense. Trae Young got 2 back-to-back in the third quarter, got 2 back-to-back easy layups in the paint because Julius Randle sat there and watched him go by. And then the game is on the line. 0.9 seconds. Trae Young, after he goes in and hits another floater in the Knicks paint. What the hell does Thibodeau think he's going to do? Right? He says, draw up a play. Who do we draw up the play to with 0.9 seconds on the clock? We got guys like Burke. We got guys like Quickly. We got guys like Derrick Rose, who was better than Julius Randle last night with 0.9 seconds. What do? Let's lob the ball in the air with 0.9 seconds to the free throw line, not the rim, but the free throw line. And then Julius Randle catches it. The clock goes off, and then he throws up a shot after the clock goes off. Like, you really thought that in 0.9 seconds you could catch it, turn around, and shoot. What the hell was wrong with
Starts tying his shoes, gets back up.
I'm like, give it to Rose and just let him throw it behind his head if you want to, but don't give it to the dude that's shooting like 25% or less.
And I still have the Knicks winning that series.
Me too.
Yeah, but like, man, Trae Young. I mean, I know they could have Luka in the draft. I'm always gonna bring this up every time I bring the Hawks, but Trae Young is that guy, man. Trae Young really iced the game. He did what he had to do against the Knicks. And
I wasn't even mad. Mad.
Now
because Knicks fans need to shut the hell up.
Bro, no, I was absolutely pissed because so me and my best friend, my roommate, we both had both of our girlfriends over, and it was there. Like, we were like watching a basketball game with them, and it comes down to it. I hate Trae Young. I also hate the Knicks. I had to choose the lesser of two evils for me. But I really do like Julius Randle and Emmanuel Quickly specifically. So with the clock going down, when D Rose hits that shot that looks like it could have sealed the game, and then they let Ice Trae do his little dance. Like, I'm up to the TV screaming, and me and my roommate are going at it. He's a big Trae Young fan, got his Trae Young jersey on. Like, we were just yelling at each other, which is why my throat hurts today. And dude, I was so hoping, because I was thinking the same thing as you, Z. A lob pass with 0.9 seconds left to a player who he was double teamed, and also a player who's not playing well. I mean, for one, why were they double teaming him? That's a good question too. But I don't even think Alec Burks was in the game at that moment. I think they took him out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Tibbs. I love Tibbs. I always have loved Coach Tibbs. I love him for one reason, and that is that when his star players, like the new player, which would be Julius Randle, is playing, or the starters aren't really getting it done, he goes to all reliable, which is Derrick Rose, Taj Gibson, those veterans. With Rose, he's one of the best. With. Yeah, I mean, he knows Rose can go out there and get him a bucket and get the offense going. But if in a late game situation, he also trusts Rose to be in the game, which Rose hasn't given a reason to not trust him. But with 0.9 seconds, you decide. I don't know if it was Tibbs' fault or whoever inbounded the pass fault. You're going to throw it to the free throw line, and then you want some Christian Laettner NCAA turnaround fadeaway like 0.9 seconds. What?
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, again, I don't think the Knicks are going to get eliminated. And after that game, I saw Twitter, I saw Instagram, I saw everything. They said that the Knicks are the most overhyped team. You see how things just slip just out of nowhere?
That's just basketball, man. That's just basketball.
The golden team to the this team is actually overrated. I feel like the Knicks are going to be just fine. I don't expect Trae Young to have another spectacular game like he did. I might, regret what I just said. But, it's Trae Young. But let's move on to the man that killed me, and I already called the cops on him. His name is Devin Booker.
Mhm.
The man was.
Nope, and he's gone.
And he's gone. No, he's back. The man was untouchable last night. Untouchable. No one could have. I mean, you, Crafty. You know how sad it is looking at LeBron James. Just, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I was destroyed. Like,
Oh well, it makes me happy. So
after the bet, yo, I don't see your camera. Do you see his camera, Crafty?
what? Z? Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
It.
Okay, cool. Never mind. You're good. It was horrible, and especially Devin Booker did whatever he wanted in the basketball court. Like, he shot everything, and it just went in, and it hurt my heart. And the fact that Chris Paul was out for a big part of the game. I mean, that was the time for us to rally back up and keep it. I don't know who this Anthony Davis is. That is not Anthony Davis. That is Daquan Davis. That, like, I need to know who is playing that Anthony Davis role, because that is not the Anthony Davis I know and love.
Who picked up the sticks on 2K?
He did, because he's literally, I don't know who's controlling this man, because he is doing horrible. And again, how do you lose when Chris Paul is not in the game for like a majority part of the first half? Like, that's the part that you needed to come back. I mean, all of that made me mad. LeBron James started great. I mean, playoff LeBron was activated for one quarter.
For a moment.
And then for a moment. And that's it. And then no more. LeBron was nowhere to be seen. And then, we all know, let me bring Jam in here. Look, we all know, light out, how do you feel about LeBron LaFlop hurting himself by flopping? And this is how I feel. I feel like I think he just gave up and he didn't care anymore. I think that's it. I think that's what happened.
I think it was because he missed the free throw. So in that play, the play where he got 3 free throws, right? I was watching the game with my boy, and I was like, I guarantee he only makes one. And my boy's a big, like, he's probably a bigger Bron fan than he's on, like, the sexual level. But I'm just like, I know LeBron, and I was like, if LeBron James is as bad as a free throw shooter as, like, Skip Bayless makes him seem, he's gonna miss 2 of these. So he goes to the line, bricks the first one, makes the second one, then you get to the third one, and then that happens. And I said, so when what you just said about him giving up, it makes sense to me right now. Because I'm like, LeBron, I said, he was like, no, LeBron's not going to miss. I was like, he's a 69% free throw shooter for his career. Now, LeBron James has a tendency of knocking down free throws for like certain quarters of the game. Like, he just,
that's facts.
It's random. Like, he's like, he will either have a night where he's hitting every free throw or missing half of them. Not missing all of them, but a good portion. So I was like, you get 3 free throw attempts. And then the way that he missed the free throw was off the back iron and then back into him. Now, everybody was like, now I talked to Lightout and Crafty both about this. I just posted a TikTok about this. Now, I said, I can't wait. Can you hear me, Light?
We can see.
I hear you.
Okay, cool. So I made a TikTok and I was like, as a LeBron fan, I really can't defend it. And this kid who looks like he's 12 says, he said, LeBron James, you cannot talk about LeBron James like this. You cannot talk about him like this. He can literally buy your whole family tree. So then I said to the kid, shut up, you're a kid, and LeBron doesn't know you. And then he's like, well, technically I'm related to LeBron James. I'm his second cousin's nephew. I don't believe it. I said, so I responded to him. I was like, so you just admitted that, even though this is what you just said about family relating or whatever, he still doesn't know who you are. Like, that makes it even more embarrassing that you have to say that you are related to him and he still doesn't know who you are. Tommy.
And let's say Tommy, and let's say he was related to him, right? Let's say you do realize who is his biggest critiquer? It's his own son, Bronny.
Right.
Right. Like, honestly, I think LeBron. I think LeBron's bigger. I think he said it before that his biggest critiquer is Bronny James. I mean, like, if Tommy really believes that he is stepping up for LeBron James because he is his third neighbor's friend's cousin, Tommy, shut up, bro. Like it's like what happened to LeBron last night was horrible, man. It was horrible. I don't want. There's no defending that. There's no defending that.
I brought up the argument. I was like, Kevin Durant had a worse looking injury. Like they were talking about like the this is how they tried to say it. He's 36. He's 280 pounds. These are some of the comments. 36, 280 pounds. The weight in which he fell apparently defied the laws of gravity or something, and he landed on his shoulder. I'm like, dude, Kevin Durant went up for a layup, made it. It was a charge.
Oh my gosh!
From the air and landed on his shoulder, straight up.
When I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's it. Like that.
I thought he snapped his arm.
Because he bounced like a basketball. He bounced like a basketball. Like it wasn't like a fall and like he slid to the ground. He immediately impacted with the arm and you stood up like nothing. I'm like, Durant, hey, what are you eating? Like I need to know what you're eating because you don't just stand up off that. And now Poppy Solo's in the chat. Shout out to Poppy Solo, biggest Nets fan.
Nets in 4. What can I say?
In the world, okay. Nets in 4. I mean, is he wrong?
This series? No, he's not wrong in this one.
Is he wrong when it comes to that, bro? Like the Nets just look so much better. I mean, I think there is a world. I think there's a chance that the Celtics could win one game. I do believe that. If JT, drops 50 against the damn Nets. But besides that, I mean, I don't see a world where JT drops 50 and ends up winning. Like you gotta look, they have James Harden, they got Kyrie, they got KD. Keep in mind, all three of them had a horrible game.
Yeah, really.
and they all had a horrible game, and Durant ended up with 32 or something like that. I think James Harden
is smart about it.
Bro, James Harden had a near triple double. Kyrie should get arrested for doing that to Evan Fournier.
That was so funny.
That was nasty. And this, what is the word, Z, that you always say that is justice or something like that? Poetic justice?
Poetic justice, yeah.
Poetic justice that
Kyrie
that he is doing this against the Boston Celtics. The team that
literally
it's like I love it. At the same time, I don't because I want the Nets to win, but I love it at the same time. Like I don't like the Celtics either.
The Nets, watching that game, I remember watching the beginning of it, and I was like, all right, they're missing shots. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Every game one, it seems like if it's the finals or the first game of the playoffs, it's normal for you to start off the game bad, right? Mm-hmm. LeBron started off the game good. It was a reverse for LeBron for some reason, but he started off the game. He hit 2 straight threes. I was like, that's LeBron. That's LeBron. Playoff LeBron. And then with Kevin Durant, I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. And then at the end of the game, I was like, that's Kevin Durant. The scariest part about the big three is when they look locked in to each other, it's scary.
It's
Harden is such a fantastic facilitator. You brought up Kyrie and Evan. And then you look at Kevin Durant, who defied the laws of injuries and hospitals. And then he gets up and drops 32 on them. And then the Celtics looked like they were in the game. And then it literally got to a point where I was like, I bet the big three, they called a timeout. They sit on the bench. They look at each other and they're like, you know what? All right, let's stop. Let's just get.
No, bro. I want to say the reason I'm really scared for the Nets in the playoffs. For both, you can use it as this is why they're going to win the finals. This is why they're not even going to make the finals. You can use it either way. Most NBA teams haven't seen all three of them on the court at the same time. They've played a total of 8 games together this season. So they don't know how to defend it. It usually could take you, 3 games in the regular season. You're like, okay, this is what we got to do to stop them. Most teams don't know how because they haven't seen the real Nets. The real Nets have not been on the court together. That could mean that, they're going to struggle eventually because we've seen Kevin Durant with more star teammates has a tendency to get heated really fast and to like to argue. But we also just saw last night 3 bad games for who they are, at least 3 bad games. And defensively, Celtics were on their game too. Yeah, especially in all the way up until the fourth quarter. I mean, Robert Williams just walked out. He was like trying to do his best Hakeem Olajuwon impression for no reason. And out of all people, Robert Williams. And
we had 8 blocks, right? Or
9. He had 9. He was 1 away from tying the playoff record as Robert Williams.
Yeah.
We're not talking about Hakeem. We're not talking about some of these all-time great centers. We're talking about a backup center.
Yeah.
With 9 blocks.
Yeah, that was
and
ridiculous.
I saw Player's Choice on TikTok. They're another podcast. Shout out to them. I love their content all the time. But they were having earlier on. They had a topic from one of their last podcasts, which was who do they have coming out of the East? And the same dude that makes very controversial statements, named I think his name is Shaq, the dude that had Shaquille O'Neal as his number 2 all time, mind you.
Yeah.
Said that.
Whoa, pause. What?
Yeah, he has LeBron, Shaq, Jordan, and Kareem. Top 4 right there.
That's some love to Shaq.
That is love.
Yeah, it's the only time I've ever seen Shaq in the top 3 and then top 2 anywhere in the top 5. This is
I've seen Shaq top 5 being 5. I've seen that, but damn, 2.
There's an argument to be made for it, to be fair. Maybe not 2, but for top 5, there's always an argument.
Yeah, there's an argument for top 5, not ahead of Michael Jordan.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
I'm telling you right now, if Boom uses Shaq next, I'm not going to be surprised. But the argument they made on the show today was Sixers can take the Nets out of the playoffs. And I said, I've been talking about this for like 3 months. The Sixers are becoming a very overrated team.
Yes.
People want them to beat the Nets. They don't really think they can beat the Nets. That annoys me a lot. Crafty, what do you have to say about that?
Dude, for one, I 100% agree with you. Now, I do think that if there was any team that could do it, I think any team could, if they have a couple bad games or whatever. But if any team were to do it, it would be the Sixers. But if they're talking about it like that is going to be the team to do it, no way. There's no way. For one, I hate to be the Ben Simmons hater. There's no way a team led by Ben Simmons' playmaking and court spacing, definitely, is going to be the team that beats probably one of the best three-point shooting teams we've ever seen, besides maybe the Warriors in 2016. Because you got to look at it, the players that are doing it. We're talking about, arguably, in a lot of people's opinion, the best scorer of all time. Almost snaps his arm, gets up, drops 32 on your head like it's nothing. You got Kyrie Irving, who has now become a shooting guard, apparently. We just don't act like that's a thing. And you got James Harden, that led the league in scoring 2 years in a row.
Yeah. That's him.
Ben Simmons being your main guy, obviously Joel Embiid, but Ben Simmons being with that court spacing, you're not beating that team.
I said, I was like, dude, y'all do realize as Sixers.
Oh,
he went quiet again.
Yep, he'll come back. Anyways, I do have to say this. I do have to say, look how. I just want to add to that, Crafty. You said, one, Kyrie's a shooting guard. Okay.
Yes.
Kevin Durant is arguably the greatest scorer of all time. Arguably, I have Jordan.
In a lot of people's opinions.
Yeah, in a lot of people's opinions. But people don't understand that James Harden, the way he facilitates the game. Like, first of all, there's not a facilitator that could drop 50 on your head if he wanted to right now in the NBA. No one. Minus James Harden. Like, no one thinks about these things. If Kyrie and KD are having a bad game, you could trust on James Harden to drop 30 in one quarter. Like,
that's the scary part about
that guy is ridiculous. Yo, Zeke, can you hear us?
Yeah.
The thing is, we've seen James Harden at point guard before, though. Like, the Nets were smart. They like tested him out before he was even on the team. I think it was 3 years ago. I want to say we saw James Harden run the one for the Rockets. Yeah, drop 11 assists a game, like it's nothing. A guy who was drop 35 points every night turned into okay, I'm a point guard now. Yeah. Like the Nets knew, like, oh, we can make this dude a point guard. Like,
yeah, like he's not a true. Well, I say he's not a true point guard, but like, I mean. How do I? Is that he has so much talent, James Harden. It's so much talent. Like he has the handles. He knows how to move with the basketball. He knows how to move without the basketball. He knows how to pass the damn basketball for sure. I mean, he led the league in assists once. I mean, the Nets look scary, but there is a team, and I've been saying, and I'll Poppy Solos in the chat. I don't believe Philly's the team that's gonna beat them. I don't. I really don't. The team that's gonna beat them. And I've been saying this all year round, and hopefully they pass the Miami Heat, is the Milwaukee Bucks.
I gotta disagree with you on that.
I've been saying this all year long. Like, we have Chris Middleton balling. Drew Holiday is an elite defender, so he could guard either Kyrie or James Harden. Chris Middleton could guard. Well, he'll try to guard Kyrie or James Harden. Let's keep that fair. I mean, he's a good defender, but he'll try to guard one of those two. And Giannis matches up really good with Kevin Durant. So yeah. I do believe that series will be a 7-game series.
It's all fun and games until the Nets shock us all and just pull a hack of Giannis, and then they win every single game.
Yep, yeah, I mean that's one thing I do want to point out about that is like I have to disagree with you with that because I'm not saying Giannis chokes in the playoffs or anything like that. He doesn't have a playoff mode like I would love to see him have, but in the playoffs the Heat show this every time. I mean they played last year and even in the game they lost, but that wasn't it wasn't because of Giannis. It was because Chris Middleton was out there balling as well.
Yep.
If you can figure out a way to trap Giannis in the paint and make him travel. That's it. All you have to do is make him travel, make him take an extra step. The Bucks' hands get tied really fast. Yeah. And I think the Nets, even though they're definitely not the best defensive team in the league, I'll give them that. I mean, I think they would be able to figure that out. I think Steve Nash has high enough basketball IQ, obviously, because, he's one of the highest IQ players of all time, let alone coaches. I think he'd be able to figure out how to stop Giannis fast enough to where it'd be maybe not Nets in 4. Sorry, Poppy Solo. But I'd say Nets in 5.
The thing with the Brooklyn Nets, the thing with the Brooklyn Nets is that literally people like to, I want to say overrate the fact that they aren't a good defensive team or an elite defensive team. But I was watching First Take earlier, and Max Kellerman said the Nets last night, they obviously are the best offensive team in basketball. If they play half good defense, that's enough. And I was like, that's the truth. Like for Philly, the point I was going to make about Philly was if Joel Embiid is off, Philly's off. That's what you have to go off of. Nobody can hold Kevin Durant. Ben Simmons can't. He can possibly contain him, but he isn't going to hold him. Nobody on that team can guard Kyrie Irving. Nobody on that team can guard James Harden. And at the end of the day, if the Nets get together, like you just said about Steve Nash's IQ, and figure out a way to stop a guy like Giannis, who's a post player, and make him pass out, if their teammates don't contribute to the win, to scoring, like how Steph's did in the other night, that's it for the 76ers.
Yeah,
they're out.
People like to think that defense matters, but when you have an offensive firepower like the Nets could literally have a bad defensive game, but the only thing that keeps them in close games is the fact that they're so good on offense. It comes down to the final shot. That's when you have the Nets.
The only thing I have to say about that, right? And although I don't think the Bucks are a top 5 defensive team, I might be wrong. I don't think they're a top 5 defensive team. But someone search that up for me. But
right now.
Yeah. But if you manage to just stop them just a little bit, just get them off their mojo just a little bit, and you tie, like, it's not impossible to outscore the Nets. That's all I gotta say. In a 7-game series, I do believe that the Bucks have everything to outscore the Nets because they match up so well with the Brooklyn Nets defensively. They have great players that can match up with Kyrie, with Kevin Durant, and James Harden. Now, am I saying it's a sure lock that the Milwaukee Bucks will eliminate them? No. What I am saying is that I feel like the team that has the biggest chance on beating the Nets will be the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, if the Nets beat the Milwaukee Bucks, we're gonna see the Nets in the NBA Finals. That's all I gotta say to that.
I think we're gonna see them in the NBA Finals regardless.
Yeah, so that's I got Philly. I love Philly, but I mean, you could try to stop. I mean, like I said, I think we talked about this like two weeks ago. Yes, the Nets can't stop Joel Embiid, but who in Philly could stop Kyrie, KD, and Harden? Like that's the thing. That's the thing. That
really the same thing too. If Philly loses, if we get that matchup, Nets versus Philly, and Philly loses, which probably will happen, guess whose fault it's going to be? It's not going to be Joel Embiid's fault. Not going to be Doc Rivers' fault. It's going to be Philadelphia fans. Because if you remember, 3-4 weeks ago, they chanted Kevin Durant sucks. They had the gall to say Kevin Durant sucks. And they know Kevin Durant doesn't play about his character. They know he's got a 15,000 burner accounts plus he's Kevin Durant. So
dude, it's the same reason with Kyrie.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, why would
Kyrie's
you
going to drop
crap?
40 at least once.
Yes, why would you talk crap to Kevin Durant out of all NBA players. A man who Crafty just said, regarded as one of, if not the best scorer of all time. And if Kevin Durant's going to be thinking about that going into that series if that happens.
Oh yeah. It's the same way. I think Kyrie at least one time this series just to shut up. I hope he does it in Boston. Drops 40 on the Celtics fans' heads for yelling F Kyrie outside.
Yeah,
the guard. I hope he drops 40 on him.
If I'm Kevin Durant and I'm going into that Sixers series after they said I sucked 3 weeks ago, I'm going to drop 50 on them. I'd flick them off at the end of the game. I'm flicking all of them off.
And then he's going on Twitter right after. Just
like damn.
Then I'd go on my burner account and be like, screw all of you guys.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. I don't like the Nets, but I am rooting for Kyrie to drop 40 on Boston. That would be awesome. Anyways, now that we talked about the playoffs, now that we talked about I think every matchup so far. I don't think we talked about Miami and Milwaukee.
I would love to.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. Crafty, what do you have to say about that?
Bucks and 7. First off, but even though I do say Bucks and 7. It's easily, I think the Heat have got a chance just like they did last year. Because I said, they know that team, Eric Spoelstra, I don't know what system he has around, but he knows how to crash Giannis in a way that Giannis doesn't know how to handle. We saw Giannis shooting like 30% the other day. We're talking about a dude who gets compared to Shaq on the daily, shooting 30%. That was ridiculous. He still almost dropped 30 points because, he got fouled 90% of the time. But that team, if Chris Middleton didn't pop off the way he did, and he wasn't, himself, the Heat would have won by 30. It's that simple. In Jimmy Butler, he never puts up good stats. He didn't even have a good game, and his stats are never fantastic. But I was reminded the heart of that team being Jimmy Butler's confidence and Jimmy Butler's willingness to drive, get injured. There was one play, I forget exactly what happened, but I thought for sure Jimmy Butler was done for. It looked like he snapped something. Jimmy Butler gets right back up, shoots his free throws, and goes on with his day. It doesn't act like it didn't happen. He just has the heart of a player that no matter what happens, I'm helping win. It was his hand. His hand literally bent in a way that it shouldn't bend. I'm still convinced his hand is hurt, but he's the kind of player that if he gets hurt in the middle of a game, I don't doubt that he'll play out the rest of the game.
I'm convinced that Jimmy Butler is Michael Jordan's son because of a lot of facts. Jimmy Butler needs to be, if he gets past, if Jimmy Butler gets to the conference finals this year, we got to start talking about where he ranks top 10, top 7, top 5 in the game today. Because when it comes to the playoffs, that's
what matters. That's the one that matters.
That's the guy you want in your
team. What you do in the regular season is great. Playoff basketball, the same Jimmy that led Miami to the finals when no one ever thought Miami would go there last year. I mean, Jimmy Butler, you just talked about his leadership. I have always been a fan of Jimmy Butler since the first day I saw him in Chicago, 2000, when he won Most Improved Player.
I will say, I not to flex at all. But last year on TikTok, I had maybe like 30,000 followers at the time. I did call the Heat making the finals. Just saying.
Ooh, what's funny? I was gonna bring that up.
I said Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA, and he'll coach that team to an NBA Finals. And he did.
What would be the reaction if Miami beats the Bucks, then Miami beats the Nets, then Miami beats the 76ers to meet up with either any Western Conference team, LA, Phoenix, Dallas,
the LA teams.
Wow.
Sorry, man. I had to at least once.
It was a good episode. I'll see you guys. No, it's gonna, dude. I would love to see Miami in the NBA Finals again. And if it's not the Lakers, I want them to win the NBA Finals. I would love them to win the NBA Finals. That'd be great. That's no actual super. I mean, Jimmy's a superstar. I get it, but the Miami Heat don't really have a superstar talent in their team. Jimmy Butler is more of a superstar because of his leadership, not talent. So if they manage to do that, it kind of reminds me of the the Pistons in 03, I think it was 03, 02.
The 02-03 Pistons.
Yeah, 02-03. They really didn't have any superstars, but they had the heart to win. And so
you can argue Chauncey Billups, but you'd be wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You could argue Chauncey, but you again, you could argue. It's crazy.
The Mavericks. 2011.
Hey, hold on. Dirk is always a superstar. I don't care what year it is. Don't talk about Dirk in any disrespectful tone ever.
Yeah, I love Dirk. He's German Jesus. I love Dirk.
German Jesus.
Yeah, Jeremy
Now,
Jesus.
before we move on, I want to say one thing.
Yes.
When it comes to Jimmy Butler, one reason I do think like one of the best leaders in NBA history, I think he will end up there, not just because he led the Heat to the finals, but we saw him in Minnesota. We saw him in Philly. We saw him in Chicago. And what are the reports we heard? The reports are bad teammate, gets frustrated, angry. But he moves to Miami, doesn't act any different. He doesn't. He's the same guy, but leads the team to an NBA Finals. I think that was the problem with the teams wasn't Jimmy Butler. It was them not being leadable.
This is
it's
what
not a
I
team that they could lead.
This is what I say when I always say leadership, just like the term clutch are two of the most subjective things that NBA fans debate over. Because people like the aforementioned Boom like to point out leadership and try and say that one player was a bad leader and the other player isn't because he doesn't do what player A does. His point was Jordan and LeBron and how Jordan led his team differently than LeBron did, but Jordan wanted to get the best out of his teammates, just like LeBron does in a more positive light. With Jimmy, like you just said, in Minnesota, this man shows up to practice and says, give me the third stringers, and we're going to beat the starters. And that was the biggest story in basketball for like a week.
Dude, facts.
But I'm like, one, I was a Timberwolves fan at that time, obviously because of Derrick Rose. I was also mad because he beat Rose, but, Rose isn't going to say anything. He loves Jimmy. So I'm like, I love Jimmy too. He goes to Philly for one season. Philadelphia decides, you know what, Jimmy? We're not going to pay you. We're going to try and pay JJ Redick. And Jimmy says, okay, great. I'm going to go here because y'all are idiots. Philadelphia always screws themselves up. But that's what happened. He leads Miami to the finals, like you pointed out, the same Jimmy. So is Jimmy's leadership bad because he went to a practice and said, all you guys are freaking scrubs and I'm going to beat you in a scrimmage? No, it's not. Because
it's leadership.
If it led to an NBA Finals berth, why are you complaining?
And I think it's a Jordan-like leadership because I guarantee you, if there was a different set of players with Michael Jordan, same exact storylines. Bad teammate. Mm-hmm. It's all a mindset, and it's all about how receptible the players are. So I think Jimmy needs a good squad around him.
I'm pretty sure Michael Jordan, before he even won a championship, people were saying that he can't. That I read it somewhere that he was a bad teammate, that he couldn't lead the Chicago Bulls to a championship. I think that was a big asterisk on Michael Jordan before he even won a championship. So the same thing we're seeing with Jimmy Butler. Obviously, Jimmy Butler is not Michael, but Jimmy's leadership is ridiculous. And this is going to lead me to this question right here from I Am Christian. Should Jimmy be in the Hall of Fame?
I think it's a little too early to ask that.
Too early? What do you think?
But yeah,
way too early. You have to look at the Hall of Fame as the Hall of Fame. I've said it before. It's just a bunch of narratives at the end of the day. If you don't have a bunch of accolades, it's with the narrative that you left on the game of basketball, which is why I think Derrick Rose is going to be a Hall of Famer, because youngest MVP of all time. They're going to continue to talk about that until somebody passes it. And if they don't, by the time he retires, he's going to go into the Hall of Fame because he's the most likable NBA player. We keep saying, what if? But the fact of the matter is, youngest MVP of all time, what happened in 2011, if you watch the season, you would know why he was the youngest MVP of all time. Yeah. Like, the narrative surrounding it, Yao Ming's in the Hall of Fame. What the hell did Yao Ming do in basketball?
Besides, an all-star every year, he was a guy. I mean,
yeah, he was an all-star, but somebody in the comments was like, well, he was big for China. I'm like, that's why they called him Big China, but at the same time, he didn't win anything other than being an all-star.
That's the narrative is, because without him, there would be no expansion to China the way there is. So that's why he's there. It's not because of his play.
I do believe Jimmy Butler will be a Hall of Fame. And not now. If it's NBA career end this day, I don't think he'll be considered a Hall of Famer. But Luka would definitely be a Hall of Famer. I don't care what
I have an argument for this. Luka would be a Hall of Famer if he retired today.
Ooh.
Luka Doncic is a Hall of Famer if he retires today, whatever day it is. I don't remember what day or month it is. He retires today.
We have to talk about this thing.
You want to hear the argument?
I want to hear it. I want to hear it. I was going to move on, but I want to hear this.
If you look at what the Hall of Fame is, it is not the NBA Hall of Fame. It is the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. We look at there's WNBA players in there. There are 7 7 basketball players never set foot in the NBA who are in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Okay, we look at 2 players who did make the NBA, Dino Raja, and we look at Arvydas Sabonis. Neither of them ever became an all-star, and neither of them ever scored more than 20 points in a single season. and they're in the Hall of Fame. Now let's look at Luka Doncic. His resume as a European player.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Literally before he was 18 years old, MVP, Finals MVP, led his team to multiple playoff appearances, and they really weren't that good. Luka Doncic, with all of his accolades combined as a EuroLeague player, outweighs them, and he's an All-Star 2 times in the NBA and an MVP candidate in the whole year. He's an MVP candidate twice. You can't tell me that man's not a Hall of Famer if he retires today if those guys are Hall of Famers.
Yeah, people don't understand this concept. The NBA is not – you do not make the NBA Hall of Fame, like you just said. It's the Basketball Hall of Fame. So that's why narrative plays a part. You just name Robbie from Jesse or whatever you just said, and then Sabonis. I'm like, whoa. Like, these dudes, I've never heard of these players, but they're in the Hall of Fame, and now you're telling me that the youngest MVP of all time isn't going to make the Hall of Fame.
I can't get over what you just said.
You're pissed off, Z, bro. You're pissed
I'm just going to make it make sense. You just named that. Ravioli and Sabonis. I know one Sabonis, the one that plays now. Make that make sense to me.
Dino, so to clarify, Dino Raja and Arvydas Sabonis.
Damn, bro. I mean, hey, with that argument, Luka's a Hall of Famer. I mean,
absolutely. That's why I say that.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I mean, that with all that, he should be a Hall of Famer. I never thought about that though. That's crazy.
If he makes the Hall of Fame, that's great for the EuroLeague. If he makes the Hall of Fame, that's the NBA is a business. It's a business.
Yep, it is. It's like how I'm trying to find a perfect analogy and I can't right now. But if Reggie Miller and all right, I'm not gonna say that. I won't piss off a lot of people. Anyways. Luka Doncic is a Hall of Famer. I agree, Crafty. Let's move on. I do want to talk about this comment that you said. I don't know when you ever. Yep, I don't know whenever you said it, but you did say it. Apparently, I had to confirm with you before the show. But obviously, when we talk about the greatest of all times, we either say Michael or we say LeBron. Or there's people in this world that actually believe that either Kareem or Kobe are the GOAT. So I want to talk to Crafty. And Crafty, who is your greatest player of all time, the GOAT? Who's the GOAT for you?
Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain.
Wow.
I will 100% stand by it. And that's actually how I blew up on TikTok. That's how I got my first 20,000 followers on TikTok, was talking about Wilt Chamberlain.
Wow. Okay, so why is that?
So I have quite a few reasons. Now, a very extreme example of what I think Wilt Chamberlain is a 7'2", 7'1", my bad, LeBron James. It's not a perfect comparison, but it's the most accurate comparison you're going to get.
I've said that too.
It's as accurate as you're going to get with who he actually was, because there also has never been a player like him. You can argue maybe Jokic is the closest thing, but even then, it's the furthest thing. Yeah. So I wrote down some points in my notes, just some quick little things, and these are some of the reasons I believe Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest player of all time. Nowhere in here will I talk about anything as far as 50-point games. I will never talk about a 100-point game, and I will never say his competition is on par with today's, because it wasn't. A lot of people always think that I'm like, I just think that because I read his stats or something one day. So Wilt Chamberlain undoubtedly is the strongest NBA player to ever play. If you watch clips, there are clips of him grabbing Gus Johnson, specifically, 220-pound man, grabs him by his arm in the All-Star game and throws him. And he doesn't set his feet either. He just gets rid of him. Gus Johnson goes flying. Wilt's just standing there. Wilt Chamberlain also is reported. There's no official thing. They didn't record these in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Wilt Chamberlain was reported to be able to have benched all the way up to 550 pounds in his career. But the most accurate one when he was in college was 500 pounds, which is 50 pounds more than most people's strongest player of all time, Shaquille O'Neal. And Wilt was doing also when he was 40. He was reported to be able to lift 450 like Shaq could in his prime. So strongest player of all time is my first point. He is the perfect mix of playmaking, scoring, defense, rebounding, and stamina. We don't talk about how much stamina this man had. He played in the 50s and 60s where we didn't have any technology we have today, where LeBron spending $2 million a year on his body and going out there playing 37 minutes, I think he's playing this year, a game, which is impressive. I'm not saying what LeBron is doing is not impressive. Wilt Chamberlain in a season averaged more minutes than there were in an actual NBA game, with 48.5 minutes per game. He only sat out 6 minutes of an 82-game season with overtimes included. Never fouled out of a game either. Wilt had 112 of his games recorded by the Warrior stat keeper who believed that blocks were important because they weren't recorded back then. He believed they were important. Out of the 112 games that he recorded blocks, Wilt averaged 8.8 blocks a game. Insane, unheard of numbers. Now, obviously, I think if you played in today's league, that would go down by quite a bit because you're not blocking some of these dudes 8 times. But my prediction would be upwards of 4 blocks a game. I think he's the best rim protector in NBA history. If they would have recorded things, I think that would be undisputed. As far as his athleticism, I think he's the best athlete in NBA history.
He was a Harlem Globetrotter.
Yeah, he was a Harlem Globetrotter for one. One of my favorite things that I love about Wilt Chamberlain, and this always makes every LeBron fan ever mad. LeBron James runs a 4.4 40-yard dash, or at least did in his athletic prime. Wilt Chamberlain ran the exact same 40-yard dash time at a heavier weight and a taller man.
Oh my God.
Ran college track, a college high jump champion in college. High jump, a 7'1" man won a high jump for vertical.
The only reason I laugh is because I can honestly see LeBron fans so bad.
No, bro, if you just watch clips, there's one specific clip that blows everyone's mind. You see players running down the court on a fast break. Wilt Chamberlain starts at the basket and beats them all down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
After watching like some actual clips, I was like, okay, yeah, this man. But 2K doesn't give him any justice. The amount of times I play with Wilt Chamberlain and his speed is like 45. I'm like, bro, it's Wilt Chamberlain.
Yo, so I got two more.
2K, bring his speed up. All right,
I got 2 more arguments, and then if you guys want to debate, I am totally willing to. Or if you guys have any questions of any other things. Led the league in assists as a center. Now, this is where people are like, oh, era. If his era was so much worse at scoring and doing the things they did, how was he able to score some? I mean, how was he able to get these plumbers, as they like to call them, 8.6 assists per game in a season? Mm-hmm. That is ungodly numbers. I mean, Jokic is averaging more right now. So obviously he doesn't have the highest assist total ever of a center, but he's the only center to ever be the best passer in the league for a season. And as I already mentioned, I think he's the best athlete, most athletic player in NBA history. My prediction for his stats, I said it in a YouTube video one time. If he played in today's league, he'd be averaging I honestly think he would average more rebounds than Dennis Rodman did in the 90s. But I still think Dennis Rodman's a better rebounder. I just think that with the way today's era is, and I think we have a lot weaker rebounders than Dennis Rodman had to go up against, I think he'd average almost 20 rebounds a game. I think he'd average dang near 30 points. And this is prime Wilt, not end of his career Lakers Wilt. I think he's averaging 4 blocks. I think he's averaging maybe 2 steals. I think he would have a formidable 3-point shot. Not as good as Giannis's, but not as bad as Ben Simmons. Because there are clips of him hitting hook shots from around the 3-point line, estimated around the 3-point line.
His post fade was deadly. I mean, his fadeaway?
It's behind. It's second and none behind Michael Jordan, Kobe, and Dirk. Right there. Yeah. Wilt Chamberlain's right under them.
It was nasty.
So those are some of the reasons I believe Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest player of all time.
Okay. I've said that Wilt Chamberlain, I said in one of my videos, I was like, Wilt, if he played in today's league, he'd fit. Because you have to understand, a lot of 7-footers in today's game, or really, really tall centers, to say the least, don't get a lot of minutes for a lot of reasons. Think about Taco Fall. Think about Bobo. These guys Bobo should get a lot of minutes. I've said that before.
I believe that.
Yeah, but Taco Fall, these guys don't get minutes, but there's reasons behind that. Wilt Chamberlain, look at him. I said it before. He's one of the greatest athletes, and I've checked like numerous news articles. Regarded as one of the greatest athletes in history.
Not even just NBA.
Yeah, put him in today's league and just give him one job. Rebounding. Yeah. This man was a freak of nature. So you mean to tell me that you won't see him averaging over 15 rebounds a game? We have Andre Drummond, who's regarded as one of the greatest rebounders of this decade. And, well, that's not really translated to the Lakers much. But you look at that, and I'm just like, well, if you just give him one job, he's going to do it. Plus, he was a really good post player.
Absolutely.
He didn't have a dream shake. He didn't have a sky hook. But he could do practically everything that he needed to do to score the bucket inside.
And what people fail to understand about Wilt, right? And I'm a debate you in a little bit, but I want to say this about Wilt Chamberlain.
Please do.
people say that he played with plumbers, that his competition wasn't great, but people don't realize when Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell both played in the game, the NBA was only 10 years old. Literally, it was like a 10, 12 years old. Obviously, when you start a business, when you start any type of sport league, the competition in the beginning is not going to be as great. You know why? Because the sport is just brand new. So you look at Wilt Chamberlain, how advanced his game was compared to everyone else in that league.
Just as to his greatness.
People don't think about that. They just like, oh, he just played with plumbers. They think that Wilt Chamberlain was born in 2012. He got a time machine and went back and played basketball. That's what people believe that happened. No, this man was born in those back then, played in the NBA. His game was so advanced that he dominated the league. Like people don't. I have him 5 in my top greatest players of all time. I have him 5. You have him 1. I respect that. But
I'll get the Wilt jersey on for this if I have to.
This is the thing, though. This is the thing with Wilt, right? Wilt, I'm not underappreciating Wilt. I think he is really. I think he's one of the most underappreciated players of all time. Like now in today's age, people don't really realize how good he really was. But when I look at Michael and when I look at LeBron, and we start comparing who is the GOAT, right? We look at championships. We look like at what they have accomplished and their dominance. Okay, so Wilt obviously checks dominance. I mean, he dominated the game. That is not a debate, right? But when we look at championships, when we look at how good they were with their team, I cannot put them in the same level as Michael or as LeBron James. Because LeBron and Michael both have, Michael has won 6 NBA champion. He is 6 for 6 in the finals. LeBron James has been to 11. I said 11 because I'm just thinking about this year. He's been to 10 NBA finals and he has won 4. Also, you look at how he impacts his game. LeBron James specifically, he makes his teammate better. He knows how to pass the basketball. He is the most all-around player of all time. Michael Jordan is I think either the best leader of all time or, he's the best leader of all time in my opinion. He is the greatest scorer of all time. He is people forget how great in defense he won. He won a Defensive Player of the Year and an MVP in the same year. And
just messed around.
Yeah, just messing around. Yeah, I think he's the only player with a perfect NBA season. I think that's the only player that has ever had that was Michael Jordan. Now, when I look at LeBron James and Michael Jordan, I cannot put Wilt right there just because he hasn't accomplished as much as LeBron James and Michael. But when it comes to individual stats, when it comes to scoring, when it comes to getting rebounds, go ahead. But in basketball, for me, you have to see what they do for the team. And for me, Wilt only has 2 NBA championships and 1 Finals MVP.
I've heard this argument a lot. First off, I like how you stated what is important for you, because a lot of things that get mixed up in basketball is we all view greatness differently. Some people view everything. Some people the reason they love Michael Jordan is they just look at championships and they're like, Bill Russell's old. The reason a lot of people love LeBron is because they look at how many finals he's made and how his what teams he took to the finals. Everyone values everything different. So I do like how you added that. So as far as the 2 NBA championships, when it comes to LeBron and Michael, specifically more Michael, because LeBron hasn't been in this boat too many times, but he was for 2 of his NBA championships. One, I can't think of how many he won with the Heat. Anyway, they're typically, when it comes to their championships, typically on the best team in the league. Surrounding them, not just being them, but their surrounding cast. If you took them out, they'd still be a playoff team at that point. Okay. When you look at Wilt's team, back then the NBA was actually super condensed, way more condensed than it was now, 9 teams, which means only the top 150 players in the world would make the NBA. So the star power was a little more condensed on the teams, which explains why Bill Russell was walking around with 8 Hall of Famers on his team like it was his job. But Wilt at most had 2 at most when he was in Philly, and then when he went to the Lakers, he had Jerry West and Elgin Baylor with him, and at one point Rudy LaRusso, but he was old. The teams he was going against, I mean, I will say LeBron has taken out a team much better than his Warriors, but the team he was going against was so unfairly matched with he couldn't do everything. You could say he choked in the playoffs. He actually only ever had one season where his stats went down in the playoffs. I will admit that was a flaw of his. He didn't have a playoff mode like someone like LeBron or Michael did. But the teams he was going up against were so unfair that it's something that a lot of people I don't think take a look at, especially when he took them to, I think it was 3 Game 7s. And if you counted up all the points from the 3 Game 7s, there was a 9-point difference in when he played Bill Russell specifically. I'm talking about the Celtics. And that's why Bill Russell won so many championships. And I don't say he didn't have any part of it, but that team around him was nasty.
This is also why I say that Wilt and the only player that you can really compare LeBron to and not really, I mean, and it can be kind of accurate, is Wilt, because you look at it, these two are all around fantastic basketball players. At that time, they were considered the best basketball players in the world because of this fact. On top of that, Wilt, in terms of adversity, like you just mentioned, and I've mentioned this before, which is why I always had Wilt ahead of Bill Russell, was because Bill was surrounded by 8 Hall of Famers. Now, that's not Bill Russell's fault. It was great drafting or whatever. But with Wilt, this man was averaging better stats than Bill Russell during those times, as well as his entire career. He averages more rebounds than Bill Russell, points. I think
55 on his head. The NBA record for rebounds was set by Wilt Chamberlain on Bill Russell.
Exactly. So I'm like, obviously Wilt's the better player. Bill just was in the better circumstances. But for me, when I look at MJ and LeBron, and I've said this to light out numerous times, if LeBron wins it this year, he's my GOAT because he's 36. The adversity the Lakers are going through that I didn't even predict this season could actually happen. But when I look at that, I look at the term GOAT as when you talk about the GOAT in sports, they've usually won a lot, which is why when every time I see a Tom Brady post, it's numerous. The majority of the time, it's Tom Brady they're saying GOAT, and it's something with Michael Jordan in it. People don't understand. Universally, Michael Jordan is still recognized as the greatest player of all time, and they've done a poll on it. But that doesn't mean that he is. But that's just the way that the world views
the opinion.
And this is what and you brought up the championships and all that stuff. On top of that, people have figured it out now. I've seen a crap ton on TikTok. They've been like, oh, well, it's the shoe sales. It's all this influence, all these things like that. And I'm like, that is also a good point. For LeBron James, Lightout just pointed out, 10 finals appearances. Wasn't it 8 straight from the Heat to the Cavs? 8 straight. Yeah. So I'm like, this man owned a conference. But for me, I was like, Mike owned the league. Which is why when I've heard people say teams team up to beat LeBron, you can't make that argument if LeBron hasn't won as much as Jordan did when he three-peated twice as the head man and the best player in basketball. That argument would make sense when you look at 1997 with Hakeem and the Rockets getting Charles Barkley. That makes sense. Everybody in the league's main goal was who's going to knock off Michael Jordan. That argument literally makes sense only for Michael Jordan and maybe Bill Russell, because I mean they were the ones holding down the league. So for me, I'm looking at it.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Light.
Oh, I was gonna just add on to that. Also, like with Michael Jordan, right? That why I have him ahead of Wilt. It's exactly what Z said. He was the best player on the best team, and I get that Wilt wasn't the best player on the best. I mean, he was the best player on his team, but he didn't have the best team. I understand that. But when I look at a champion, a GOAT, like the greatest of all time, I look at what they have accomplished. All right. And again, there's no actual definition on who's the greatest of all time. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Or else we wouldn't have debates. We would
we would have okay, so it has this and okay, so this guy's a GOAT. Yeah. So obviously for me, and this is for me. Okay. I look at the player that impacts the game the most and how many accomplishments he has had. That's why I have LeBron as the GOAT. But secondly, I have Michael, because Michael Jordan, although, you could, like Boom says, he's not an all-around basketball player, he did a lot in the basketball court. Not only did he win a scoring champion, he would defend your best player on the other side for 48 minutes straight. Like, it's not like this guy was balling out. And you look at what Michael accomplished and what LeBron accomplished, it lacks on what Will accomplished. And unfortunately, because he had to face those Celtics, that has a stain in his legacy. And for me, that's why I cannot put Wilt Chamberlain as the greatest of all time. You are convincing me to maybe put him higher with that argument.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, you
definitely
definitely did make me put him higher in with your argument. I might have to look at Magic Johnson and Wilt Chamberlain and just start comparing which one I really think is better. That I do give you that. But when it comes to the grades of all time, I think right now in today's age, I think you either have to put LeBron or Jordan. Again, this is for me. I'm not
so
speaking for everyone.
It's clear to me that you guys, both of you, definitely, you value legacy over, like ability and accomplishments. Correct me if I'm wrong, which I don't think there's a problem with that. But for me, it's flip-flopped because I believe that there's a lot of asterisks on legacy. There's a lot of things that get in the way. Like, personally, if hypothetically, of course, if there was a move like LeBron did, which when LeBron moved, he opened up every star in the league to be like, oh, if there's a situation I'm not good in, I can leave. I can leave. That was LeBron's influence. If something like that happened for Michael, and there were players trying to team up, not saying that's what they do now, but if there were players, like you said, who were like, our goal is to beat Michael, almost like Charles Barkley did, but there was more of them trying to do that. And Michael got like dominated by these teams, then I feel as if in that situation there's an asterisk because, like, well, Michael's still the greatest player in that league. He's still I wouldn't move him on my all-time list. But there were circumstances, and I hold circumstances in a different spot to where it just wasn't possible for him to win because there are situations like that where it's just not possible. Now, also knowing Michael Jordan's mentality, he still would have won. But I do get what you're saying. I just don't value accolades as much as most people. I mainly do look at skill and ability. Now, I do value accolades because in that case, there would be some players who just are top 10 all time but didn't do anything. But I definitely don't value them as much as you guys do.
Yeah, I look at I think, and I've said this, I think I commented on somebody's TikTok before, and I was like, man, at the end of the day, the GOAT debate still won't be solved if LeBron wins or loses this year. But I was like, what we need to start doing as an NBA basketball community, as all the fans, what we need to start doing is we need to discuss if we are going to look forward in the next 20 years and say GOAT of their generation, GOAT or
of the decade
player of all time. And in that discussion, you have guys like LeBron and Wilt. That's a debate right there. Best player all time. You're going to have LeBron and Wilt, but their careers are kind of a little bit, they have a whole lot of similarities and nobody really thinks about adversity against championship caliber teams that aren't as big as your team. Freak athletes regarded as some of the best athletes of all time. LeBron James is in that discussion. So I think that we got to start figuring this out as the years go on, which probably won't happen. But
no, we won't. We're a very stubborn community. Let's be honest.
Yeah, we're just gonna say Jordan or LeBron's the GOAT, and that's it. Then we're done.
Well, that's like the hardest part about me believing this is like people will ask me like who haven't heard that opinion because a vast majority of my followers now haven't heard that opinion. Yeah. I'll get asked in Instagram Live. So, are you an MJ or LeBron kind of guy? I'm like, I'm a Wilt kind of guy. Like, you know how awkward that is? Yeah. Like, I think it's funny how you heard that. You probably had one of my OG followers in like your live one day, and there was like, do you know Crafty thinks Wilt's to go?
I think I figured it out because I think it was someone stitched a video of you, and he said, Wilt is not the greatest of all time. And I never saw the original video. I'm like, who would ever think this? That's what I said. I'm like, who would ever think this? But now that I see your argument, I'm like, okay, that makes sense for him because he looks at the game differently than I do. And now everyone looks at the game differently than everyone. I mean,
it's the beauty of basketball.
Exactly. That's the best part of basketball. But before we end the podcast, I want to ask you, I didn't ask you to do this, so this is kind of unfair. What would be your top 5 players of all time?
Oh, okay. Never mind. That is a little unfair, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 1, Wilt Chamberlain. We discussed that. Number 2, give me LeBron James. I'm a LeBron kind of guy in the MJ and LeBron debate. So, but I also hate LeBron. So it's weird. I'm all about being unbiased in the sense of I don't care how I feel about that player. Their game speaks for themselves. And then I do put Michael. These two are obviously interchangeable for anybody. At 4, give me Kareem. At 5, it's a tough one. Yeah, you would ask me last month, I would have said LeBron. I mean, not LeBron, Kobe. Not LeBron. Yeah, I would have said Kobe.
I got Kobe as my 5th, so.
I don't even have Kobe top 5.
Nah, give me Larry. Give me Larry
Bird. I respect that. I respect that. All right, cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this was Light and Hunch with my boy Crafty, or they call me Crafty.
Whatever you want to call me.
Whatever you want to call me. Anyways, thank you for watching. This is Light and Hunch. We'll see you next week. We'll see you this Thursday. I forgot to tell Z this, but I'll tell him in a bit. All right. Hey.